Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, John. Thank you so much. And that is exactly part of the mood here at Super Return. What does this industry do with AI? Do they care about AI? We have the perfect man for that. As you say, it's Orlando Bravo of Thoma Bravo. Orlando, thank you so much for joining this morning.
Dani, great to see you.
So if you look at these public markets, it used to be a frenzy over all of AI. If you mention AI in an earnings call, your stock goes to the moon. Lately, something has changed. It's now NVIDIA's the winner, and we're more skeptical about other companies' abilities to monetize AI. So did we get over our skis in the promise of AI right here and right now?
Well, Dani, I can give you the enterprise view of AI, right? The business view, not the consumer view. Now, if you look at the software landscape, $10 trillion of market cap in software publicly traded companies today, about 1,000 companies. Some of those software companies have been providing AI solutions to their customers for decades. In fact, some of those companies are pure AI companies. Now, let's differentiate that. When you talk about Gen AI, right, the new form of technology in AI, this is what's going on today. Many software companies have produced and delivered and introduced Gen AI solutions to their customers, but they're not charging for them. They're including that in the bundle of their products.
Is that a problem? We saw that in Salesforce. That stock sold off because margins on that essentially zero. Do companies need to get better about finding a way to monetize this?
Yes, they do. But at the same time, the software business has become, you have to continuously add value to your product, not only to fend off competition, but to upsell your customers. So this is a good development overall. Today we have $25 billion of revenue coming from our software companies, and 75% of those companies have released Gen AI solutions to those enterprise customers.
But what you're talking about, it's not necessarily extra profit because they're not charging for it. So that promise of huge outsized profit, is that a little bit misguided? Because it sounds like you're saying it's just a continuation of value offering.
But you should be able to monetize it later. The key is if you really run an efficient operation, you take all your engineering talent and your product management vision for that engineering talent, you do have to move resources around.
How patient should we be for that? Because these public markets aren't being patient. What should be the timeline we give companies to figure this out?
The investors, and we as a big investor in software, a private investor in software, we always look at the P&L. And is the company achieving the level of earnings that we set out to achieve? And if we are, within that the company can create and innovate and move around resources to fit what they need.
Okay. In software in general, Orlando, I mentioned Salesforce having a bit of a tough time. Not just the issues with AI, but some concerns there that maybe sales weren't as good. Workday had something similar. In the private markets, you see Vista taking a huge write down, $3.5 billion on one of their online learning platforms. It's these pockets of software stress. What's going on?
What happened was, when this happened? Q2 of 2022. That's when we first saw a big drop in new business generation by these companies, a drop in bookings. Now, always as an owner, you think about what can you do about it? What we do about it is we protect the P&L. We have to come in and cut cost again to protect the level of earnings that we set out to achieve in these companies. Now, those pockets of weakness are also related to the business model of these companies. You look at Gen AI and you look at a technological shift in the enterprise software world, but also a business model transition, and people don't talk enough about that. Companies that charge by the user are going to be more challenged than companies that use other forms of pricing.
Are you still in cost-cutting mode now?
We always are protecting the P&L. Not right now. We had to do that again in 2022, and it's much better to be early so you don't have to chase your earnings. That way, if the environment improves, you can come back and invest, and if the environment stays the same, you can basically run your business profitably.
I have to be honest, Orlando, when I've talked to a lot of folks here about AI, a lot of people have said it's not as big of a topic this year. Maybe it was last year. We're not really thinking about it that much. Is this industry behind in having an AI game plan? Do you think all of these various private equity companies with portfolio companies, do they need to have a plan for all of them?
You need to have an AI game plan. In fact, in the SaaS era, which really got started in 2010, a bit before that, we used to say that every company needs to think about becoming a software company or their digital side of their business. Now we say that every company needs to become an intelligent software company. And if you look at the buyers of our companies, all the exits we've had over the last 18 months, many of them are industry buyers that are looking to transform their companies through software.
But isn't there some of it that's a gimmick, Orlando? Like, I don't need my refrigerator, for example, to have AI, do I? I mean, isn't some of this, we're selling a dream that's not really there?
Sometimes you are. That's where there's so much value in the software incumbents. There are two reasons for that. The software incumbents are working with their customers, thousands of them, sometimes the entire Fortune 500 customers, on solving an important business problem today that they have in a given use case, in a given horizontal, in cybersecurity, or in a vertical. Those are the companies that are in the pole position as a trusted advisor to develop GenAI solutions that actually add value to those customers. And secondly, and really important, something became very valuable in software enterprise, and that is data, proprietary data. Many of the companies you mentioned are sitting on proprietary data that they can use from their customers that can be used to develop GenAI solutions and train these models.
Well, that huge, vast treasure trove of data, it's no secret. It's something that regulators have looked at with consolidation in this industry. An investigation is opening up now. We heard this today with Microsoft and OpenAI. It's been a lot of concern about antitrust. How big of a headwind is it to you? Have you had to approach investing differently given what's happening down in D.C.?
Very differently. And we take a practical view towards antitrust and the regulatory environment. This is the thing. It's a fact-based approach. If you're a seller and you believe you can add a lot of value by selling that company at the right price, and if you're a buyer and you think you can add a lot of value by buying that company, you just have to appreciate that there is a public policy underpinning environment towards this, and you have to live with it.
So are there deals you haven't done because of this?
Most of the time, no, because if your facts are right, you have to go forward with that and being willing to be creative, collaborative with the regulators, and the regulators are smart. Now, they may look at your deal. It may take 9 months to close a deal instead of 3 months. It may take a year to close a deal. But for something that adds value, you have to just look forward to that and put out the facts on the table.
Do you think this regulatory environment is a problem, that it's problematic, that it's gotten this much more scrutiny, this many more deals blocked?
I don't think the regulatory environment in software is actually a problem, because software is a highly, highly competitive industry. And the regulators, our experience in doing deals is the regulators actually understand this industry really well. So in our field of enterprise software, it's not a problem. The problem is when buyers and sellers want to completely shy away from doing the work that it takes to explain it so they can move forward with their transactions. We know of a number of very large strategic buyers that from a management perspective just don't want to deal with that environment.
Do you want to give us some names, Orlando?
I can't. I can't, because many of those are partners and buyers of our companies. But look, once again, we get paid to undergo these processes and to adapt to these processes. And it's really important that buyers and sellers do that.
Okay, Orlando, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining today. We really appreciate your time. John, that is Orlando Bravo, the co-founder of Thoma Bravo. Talking about this regulatory environment, it's changed things, but he says those that are struggling are not doing the work.